We're going to be discussing what to do when you are neurodivergent, and more even specifically when you have ADHD, and we want to get deeper into meditation, but we find that to be a little bit of a struggle. And so let me know in the comments who in here has ADHD or some type of neurodivergency. I myself have ADHD and I'm on the autism scale. So when I first started wanting to get into meditating, I found it incredibly difficult because the bees were just buzzing 24/7 in my brain. It was thought after thought after thought after thought, and a lot of them were negative. At that time, I was probably about maybe 5 years ago when I first started getting into meditation, and when I thought that was silly, I would hear all these teachers talk about all the time. I'm like, like, I don't think it's that important. Actually, it really is. But at that time, I was experiencing a lot of trauma and just negative things going on in my life, and I wasn't taking the time to sit and process through them. And so when I would go to sit and meditate, it would just be an onslaught of catastrophizing, negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, and it didn't feel good. I was really eating at my self-concept and my confidence, and so I kind of pushed it to the back burner. But as I got deeper into my spiritual journey, I realized when we're learning about meditation, it's not always in the lens of neurodivergent types of meditation. And how reality is kind of set up is not for the neurospicy persons. And so sometimes you got to find workarounds and shortcuts that will support you in the way that your brain functions. Okay, so again, this is kind of more specifically towards ADHD because I have found that with my clients, they are the ones that struggle the most with meditation, but it can also apply to many different facets of neurodiversity. So when we are thinking about meditation, one of the topics that comes up is you should be able to go to a place in your mind where you have absolutely no thoughts, like just complete blank space up there. That is really beneficial if you want to get into channeling or deeper soul work. I do soul retrievals with my clients, and this is where I go into their Akashic fields and I connect with their inner children, different incarnations, spirit team members, spirit animals, whatever, okay, out there in the ethers. And I have to be able to get myself to a 0 point within my consciousness in order to access those things. But that's not how I began. That is after years of teaching myself how to get to those depth levels in meditation. How I started was guided meditations, because I could not quiet my own mind. It was incredibly difficult. And I found that if I was listening to somebody else, it was a lot easier to kind of put my thoughts at bay and just zone in on what they were saying. What kind of meditations was I listening to? I'm going to show y'all this resource that I have here. When you are getting into energy work, I use them as well, and it helps me a lot. Yes. Well, one of the things that I needed, okay, let me not go too all over the place. So, one of the things was when you are wanting to get into energy work, we can be really scared because we're afraid the ghosties and the goblins and the ghoulies are going to come and get us. And that has to do with witch wounds and persecution fears, or doing astral work in different timelines, or societal programming telling us that magic is evil, witches are evil, you know, all the different things. And movies, TV shows, and cinema where like scary things are happening. Well, that stuff is going into your subconscious, and your inner children that are within you are seeing that, and they're like, oh no, I don't want to do etheric work because anything could come through. Especially when you were a child, if you saw spirits of any sort, okay, whether that's people that have passed on to the other side, you're looking through the portal, or not the portal, the veil, and you're seeing cosmic beings or even magical creatures, us as adults, we're like, oh yeah, that would be awesome, that would be fun. But for a child that doesn't have anybody to talk to about that, it can be very disconcerting. Especially if you grow up in a religious household or your culture tells you that that is evil, you're going to be really scared and you're going to end up shutting your channeling abilities off. That happened to me. And it took me quite a few years to kick those back online. So when I first started meditating, I was scared. I was like, what is going to come through and get me? But that, again, that's just programming and conditioning. I will say that I have not had any super scary experiences in all my years of doing astral work. Are there some things that are really intense? Sure. Some things that might be like a little spooky? Sure. But if you're a very sovereign being, you can learn how to navigate those things. Anyway, let's not get too off topic. So I was very scared, and I was always told that imagination, it's not important. What is important is being in the 3D reality and working on your goals and achievements and external success. And so I just didn't see that as a valuable asset alongside of being scared with my inner children. So I said, what is something that I could do with them that would make this more fun and an enjoyable experience? And because I was already having a difficult time meditating, I needed something that was going to be a lot easier. So your imagination is attached to your mental plane. It is in your mind, in your human psyche. Okay, that is a lot denser than you doing astral and etheric work. That is where you are starting to, I don't like to use the word like disassociating from yourself. It's more so leaning into your light body and your astral field. That can feel very ungrounding, and there can be anything that happens because you're not in control of the experience. It's whatever comes through your field. Well, in your imagination, you are 100% in control. You get to decide what that experience is because you're curating it. You are creating it. If you're out in the astral, you're experiencing it, whatever comes through. So I said, I just need to work on my imagination first, and then we'll work on channeling stuff later. Okay, at that time, I was having a lot more controlling mechanisms in my life as well. Like I was a very controlling person, not necessarily of other people, but of myself. And so I needed to set up these safety parameters, not only for me, but for my inner children, so that they could relax enough to even be in our imagination. Because when you have a activated central nervous system, you are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It completely cuts off your imagination. Completely cuts off your channeling and access to your higher self and multidimensional awarenesses, because you're in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, you're really just focused on how can I feel safe in my 3D reality? And then you're pulled out of your imagination and down into your lower chakras. Okay, so we need to do something that is fun and allows us to relax. This is a resource that I want to share. This woman, her name is, well, not her name, but her channel's name is New Horizons. You can find her on YouTube. She has hundreds of meditations to do with your inner children. They are for children, like outside of you, like I used to do them with my son. But I found that when I did them with my inner children, it was a absolutely stellar experience. This would allow them to listen to someone else who was talking so that we could put our thoughts on the back burner for that 20-30 minutes and really go on a much more immersive journey with one another. And it was helping my central nervous system learn how to relax, and that my imagination planes were safe to be in. She talks about unicorns and fairies and dragons and all these different, earth-based animals, and you can go to a castle in the sky and, all these fantasy-based realities. Even though that doesn't sound like it's going to be beneficial for you in the future, when you do get into channeling or doing deeper soul work, it is close enough that when you do experience those things, you're like, oh, I've seen this before. If you do a bunch of unicorn meditations with her and then you actually go to meet one later on, your inner children are going to feel a lot more grounded and centered because you already spent all that time setting up a very strong foundation. So I would just do those over and over and over again, not the same ones, but just new ones consistently. And it's also a really great way to start getting into spirit animal work, because you get used to their personality traits and attributes that she's also including in these meditations. So it's easier to call upon them when you're wanting to do types of shamanic healings. So another great resource here, this woman, her name is Stephanie Kojak. Stephanie Kojak. You can find her on YouTube, and she has a playlist down here, and it is Animal Spirit Guide Meditations. Now, she is a energy healer and a practitioner, and this is a fantastic way for you to start doing channeling with different beings, because a lot of people want to start talking to their higher self or cosmic entities or deities or, you know, whatever, but your inner children might not be at that place yet. They might still be too worried to get to that level. So we need to tiptoe our way in there. And you know what is really safe? Animals. Because we already have that in our collective consciousness, because we can see them. Even if they're not in your personal 3D reality, you've learned about them in school or in movies and TV shows, or maybe you have seen them at a zoo or wherever, but that is a great way to do astral work that your inner children are going to be really excited about, because everybody loves animals. You want to be connected with them. Animals all have specific traits that you can embody in your own field. I have 4 cats and I feel so connected to them. I love that. So you could explore that further and be like, well, what about a tiger? What about a lion? What about a cheetah? They're all very different from one another, even though they are cats. That makes sense. But that is one of the ways that I got into meditation when I was really struggling with it, because I needed somebody to be talking in order for me to let go of my thoughts. I also had to train myself how to stay awake, because when I would go and listen to these and I would be laying down, I would be passed out so quick and not really experience the journey, which honestly, that is still beneficial, even if you're sleeping and listening, because it's still doing work on your astral and etheric body and your subconscious, because when you're about to fall asleep, your subconscious is the most open. So it's still going to be beneficial even if you're sleeping. Okay. Can you mention the first name again? Oh yes, New Horizons. New Horizons on YouTube. She's the one that has children meditations that you can do with your inner children. She's great. She's like grandmotherly energy. Amazing. Cannot recommend enough. So, okay, where was I? Hold on. Dang. Y'all tell me in the comments, where was I? What was I just talking about? The ADHD gets me sometimes. Okay. Hold on. It'll swing back around. Okay, we're talking about animals. Oh, falling asleep. Oh my gosh. Okay, falling asleep. I would fall asleep if I was laying down. So what I did was I would sit up in my bed or sit in my office chair and listen to them then, because if you're sitting up, you're less likely to fall asleep. And if you're wanting to get into deeper states of meditation, you're gonna have to be awake in order to retrieve information that is deep within your Akashic records. So instead of laying down, I started sitting up and listening to them, and that allowed me to for an example, you know when you are about to fall asleep or you're about to wake up and you're kind of half in and half out of both of those states? That's where we're trying to get to. That is the level of meditation that I can reach now, just in about 5 minutes without any external circumstances helping me. That's where we need to get to do Akasha level work, either for yourself or for your clients. It's that in-between state of being. What is happening is your subconscious is opening up your psyche, and you're also able to perceive more in the etheric realms, because you are detaching from your human, if that makes sense. It is stepping outside of your 3D reality circumstances, outside of your emotions, outside of your thoughts, and being the observer. We need to get to a place where we can kind of be above everything in our human experience, because you have trauma, biases, filter lenses, distortions, and reaching these levels of meditation allows you to step outside of all of that. So we're going to talk about how to get there. Let's see, let me pull up a picture for y'all. All right. So these are the different brainwave states. This is how I taught myself how to reach these levels. So up here we have beta. This is where most people are at in life. Well, let's start with gamma, because y'all might research that. Gamma brainwave states is when your brain is going hard in the paint. You are going 90 miles per hour. You are very much utilizing your logical and analytical skills. It is a high intensity activity, project, meeting with your coworkers, very high, like this would be a nurse working in ER. Like you've got to really be digging through the filing systems of your brain and high connectivity. This is where most people are living, in beta. This is when we are having our mind doing emails, like we're writing emails, we are putting together presentations, you are talking with your kids about something. It's not as high intensity, but you're still having to utilize a lot of your brain functioning for this. This is also where people have an activated central nervous system. This is a lot of stress. This is a lot of anxiety. This is where a lot of self-limiting beliefs reside. This is catastrophizing. This is thinking a lot about the past, thinking a lot about the future. This is you feeling very crunchy in your body, very blocked up. This is where people feel very stuck in life. This is where we are having very negative self-talk. Okay. So there's positives and negatives to this. I'm not saying it's all negatives, because we definitely need to be here for bringing things into fruition into life. But a lot of people lean into the more negative aspects of this. And this is where I was living the majority of my life as well. We know many of us, okay, for lots of different reasons. Not because of your own doing. It can be because of trauma. It can be because of your job. It can be relationships. It can be lots of different things. Okay. But this is not going to get you to do deeper Akasha work. Okay? You need to be getting down to at least alpha or theta brainwave states. Alpha is when you are doing some type of meditative activity. This is as painting, coloring, gardening, reading a book, swimming, being out in nature, doing pottery, something where you're just kind of vibing and enjoying and being a little bit more present, being a little bit more relaxed. That's alpha brainwave states. Okay, that is a form of meditation in and of itself, which we're going to talk about that in a second. But we need to be at least there to get down into theta. Okay, so if we're trying to get into a deep meditation, it's very difficult to go from beta to theta. We need to meet in the middle and be doing some type of activity that relaxes us before we go into meditation. That's where people get stuck a lot of times. They're doing something really intense activity or a workout, or you just had an argument with your kids or whatever it is, and you need to take a pause and do something that's going to relax your central nervous system a little bit more, give you some dopamine and serotonin. So theta brainwave states here. This is when we are about to fall asleep or when we're about to wake up. That's that half in between phase. So theta is, you do not necessarily have to be in meditation to reach this. Theta is when you're doing repetitive tasks. when you're doing something over and over and over again and you're not really having to utilize your logical and analytical brain. Like, let's say you're doing crocheting or you're doing diamond art. It's a very relaxed activity. Something else that can get you into theta is watching TV or doom scrolling on TikTok. That is why we need to be really mindful about what kind of activities we're doing in theta, because your subconscious is wide open. It is just open to anything that is seeping in, whether that is positive or negative, and it is shaping your beliefs, your thoughts, and your emotions. And I'm not saying that I don't scroll on TikTok, okay, or watch TV, but I am a lot more mindful about that because I know I'm going into theta brainwave states. It's where you're just kind of absorbing things. And we all know what that state of being is. We're not really thinking about anything. We're just receiving. So theta is also a great place to be for deeper soul work in the Akashic realms. This is when you are wanting to receive insights, downloads from your higher self or your inner children or different incarnations. You're wanting to figure something out about yourself, heal something, download the templates for new projects, or get answers about what's going on with your career or your finances or your relationships in your life. You are going to be able to receive that information a lot easier if you can get into theta brainwave states. Delta, that's where you are asleep, if that makes sense. Like that's when you are already out of that half in between phase. However, you can teach yourself how to be awake during Delta. That is when I am doing very expansatory Akashic record work for people. I'm in Delta. I am in complete 0 point. I am completely detached from Sage. Okay, Sage is me. If it's your first time meeting me, I am completely detached from her. I am 100% the observer, and I am an open receiver. And none of my filter lenses and distortions and own trauma and biases are in the way. I am completely plugged into source, and I can see a lot more in the ethers and the astral planes when I'm in Delta. And all of this sounds very complicated and that it's going to take a long time, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily easy. Like, it did take me quite a while to teach myself how to do this. But once you grab a hold of these frequencies of like, oh, this is what this feels like, it's a lot easier after that. And then it just takes time and practice. Now, I can get into theta state in 2 minutes. Like that lighter meditation and be perceiving things. Delta takes me about 10 minutes to get down into, but it's a very easy process now. So that is where y'all can head in that direction. This is a book that I recommend to everyone. Go get this. This is Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He teaches about brainwave states and how to access the quantum fields. Not only for yourself, but if you want to do work with other people, he breaks it down in a way that's very tangible and easy to understand. And he talks about manifestation as well and how to become a frequency match for your desires. So it's a very well-rounded resource. However, what I gleaned from it the most was the brainwave states. It was so much easier for me to grab a hold of that concept in reading this because he gives a lot of exercises as well. So highly recommend getting this book. This is not sponsored. It's just something I'm very passionate about. And he is he's an energy healer. He's a practitioner, but he's also a scientist. And so if you're into both of those realms, he's a great bridge. He can really help you understand quantum physics on a deeper level as well. Okay. So we talked about guided meditation, spirit animals, theta brainwave states. Hello, hey Shay. I know it's been a while since I've been on live. So with me now doing guided meditations and working with spirit animals and getting a little better about pushing my thoughts to the back burner. What I realized is that I could utilize my logical and analytical skills to support me, because again, like we talked about in the beginning, people say, oh, meditation, you need to be completely quiet in your mind. Okay, well, that's one type of meditation. There are so many that you can experience. And when you have ADHD or neurodivergency, you got to find workarounds. Okay, because not everything is going to work for you like everybody else. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to get really good at asking questions. This is something that I recommend to everyone, because asking questions is not only going to help you with meditation, it's going to help you with deeper soul work, it's going to help you become a better communicator and a better leader. It will help you in every single area of your life. What you can do is you can go on Google or ChatGPT, whatever you want, and pick a topic: finances, career, spiritual gifts, soul mission, whatever you want, okay? You need to find a big old long list of how, what, and why questions. Because if you do that, those are open-ended, exploratory, imaginative questions. If you're asking yes or no, those are not going to work in the Akashic Records. They are not going to work with your higher self. They are not going to work with your spirit team members or your inner children, because they're not here to tell you what to do. They are here to guide you and give you their opinion and give you their advice in a way that's very open-ended. They're trying to help you become a sovereign being that feels very self-assured in making decisions. Well, what's not going to help you is giving you yes or no answers. They want you to be able to become the own Sherlock Holmes of yourself. And so if you're asking those type of questions, it's going to allow a lot more access to different timelines as well. Because if you're asking yes and no, you have two options. If you're asking how, what, and why, you have infinite timelines available to you and infinite access to all sorts of different information or perspectives of yourself, and you're going to have an easier time navigating life that way. If you want a guide, I do have a soul retrieval and past life masterclass. You can find that in my bio or down here in the description below. This is where I teach you how to connect with your past lives, how to do deep soul retrievals with yourself or clients if you're a practitioner, how to work with archetypes, the hero's journey, how to become a dynamic storyteller for shamanic healings. With that is also included a 100-question guide for your Akashic Records. Because I know that sometimes people struggle with, well, what questions am I supposed to be asking? So I put one together for every single area of life that you can think of, and a whole set that goes along with each of those areas as prompts for you. Because when you see questions like that, it gets your brain going of, oh, this is what they're supposed to look like. This is what they're supposed to feel like. And then you can start curating your own. You obviously don't have to get those from me. I had to learn them from the internet myself in order to even put that guide together. But sometimes it is beneficial just grabbing something that somebody else has that's already preset. So that does come included with my soul retrieval and past life masterclass if y'all want to sign up for that. Also, you can get $10 off of that today if you use the promo code MAGIC. Okay, $10 off today, promo code MAGIC. So becoming the Sherlock Holmes of yourself, utilize your logical and analytical skills. If you have so many thoughts in your brain, start asking them questions. Why do you feel this way? Why are you thinking this? Why am I experiencing this fear? Why am I experiencing this anxiety? Or you don't even have to ask negative things, even to your positive emotions and thoughts. Why do we feel this way? Why do we think this way? You don't have to sit in silent meditation if that's hard for you. Make it a whole healing session on yourself where you are questioning what is going on. That's fine. That's what I had to do in the beginning. Okay, well, I cannot quiet it. Well, then I'm just going to start asking questions. We are going to get to the bottom of what is going on, the roots of what is happening, And because I have a high level of brain connectivity, which if you're in here listening to this, you do too. You're probably very good at behavioral pattern recognition, and you just have this inner knowing of what people got going on in their lives. Utilize those skills on yourself. That can be your meditation. Don't sit in silence, because honestly, meditation and being silent is about helping you become the observer. Okay, well, then be an active observer instead. What that is going to do is it's going to clear out trauma anyway. It is going to repair your mindset. It is going to reprogram your subconscious. It is going to heal your inner children. When people are having closed channels and they're having a very difficult time hearing their higher self, or their intuition, trusting themselves, using discernment, holding boundaries, it's because you have a lot of trauma in your body and it's taking up space. Trauma is very dense. It makes you feel very sluggish and bogged down. It makes you not clear of mind. It makes you very apprehensive to make decisions because you don't trust yourself. Or you're not feeling confident, or we don't have a high self-concept. Once you start to clear all those things out, it's very easy to connect to your different incarnations. It's very easy to pull in your spiritual gifts and get in alignment with your soul mission and become a leader of your communities, or to download the templates for projects or artistic creations. But you got to clear all that mucky stuff out. Okay, the swamp. And one of the ways that you can do that is, yes, learning how to be quiet and still in meditation, because it's teaching you like, hey, all of that stuff is not real. Like all of that trauma, I mean, it is real, you experienced it, but it's not happening right now. All of those behavioral patterns and triggers and limiting beliefs, trauma, all that stuff, those are falsities, those are illusions. That's not your true core soul essence behind them. Okay, well, be quiet and do that. That's one way. Or you can just be a more active participant in your meditations and just ask tons of questions of yourself. Either way, they're both going to get you there. You are going to thrive either way. And the reason I'm saying this is because neurodivergent persons hold so much shame and guilt of not being able to quiet our mind. Well, babe, that's just not you, okay? That's for the people that are not neurodivergent. You need to find a way that works for your brain, and that is okay. Like, give yourself permission of, I just have a high level of brain connectivity. Let me utilize that as my greatest blessing instead of seeing it as this curse, or that there's something wrong with me, or that I'm broken, right? Workarounds, shortcuts is the name of the game. Okay. Clearing out emotions. Sometimes meditation is not even about working with your thoughts. It's, I need to fully flesh out the anger that I am feeling. I need to fully flesh out the fear, the anxiety, the sadness. What we do need to realize is that we are not our thoughts. We are not our emotions. Those are things that we are channeling. That is why you do not feel them forever. Just like you do not feel happiness, joy, magic, whimsy all the time. Those are things that are simply flowing through you at any given time. Oftentimes, when I'm feeling something very intensely, I will sit with myself in what you would call meditation, and I would talk to that emotion. I'd be like, hey girl, what you got going on? Why do you feel this way? It's fine that you feel this way, however you're feeling. Doesn't matter what the emotion is, just emotion. Why are we experiencing that? What happened? Let's talk about it. Okay? Because when I am talking to the emotion, now I am the observer. I'm still having to feel it in my body, but I am not attached to it in the same way. And now I can actually help support them with moving through that. There's a lot of us that are very cerebral with our emotions, and we're thinking about them instead of actually feeling them. So when you're having conversations with your emotions like this, you are holding safe space for them and saying, I see you, you're heard, seen, and validated. I love you. I'm so happy that you're here talking to me about this right now. I know it's very intense to feel this in our body, but I want you to know that we're going to do it together. And you can say whatever you want in here. Okay, no holds bar. You can curse as much as you want. You can talk about how much you hate life and what's going on. You can scream at the top of your lungs in here, like whatever. Okay, because emotions are just energy that need to move through you. So if you provide them with that space and show them like, hey, it's safe and it's fine that we feel this way and let's talk about it. That's a great way to move through it. That's another form of meditation. It's helping your emotions move through your body, okay? So something that I also found when people are going in meditation, they're like, I'm sitting here, but nothing's happening. It's because you're not either holding an intention or you're not coming in with a location. If you are not deeper into channeling and you're just going in there very ambiguous, waiting for something, if you have a high level of brain connectivity, that's not going to work for you. And I don't want to say a blanket statement, but just from what I've seen with my clients, it's not going to work. You have to have a goal. You got to utilize your brain's greatest gifts. You got to say, hey, I really want to learn about my spiritual gifts or my soul mission. I want to learn why I'm experiencing perfectionism or imposter syndrome or overachieving. I want to learn more about my root chakra or my heart chakra. I want to learn more about unicorns or dragons. I want to learn about different incarnations. Whatever it is, you need to go in with a goal. This needs to be a game. It needs to say, or we need to say, I want to experience specific results from this where there's input and output. That is going to allow you to utilize your logical and analytical brain and still do meditation at the same time. Who's to say that it needs to be quiet? It can be literally whatever you want it to be. If you come in with an intention and get really good at asking questions, that's a way to fast track finding information about yourself. Or if you don't come in with an intention, what I love to do and what I teach others is let's create a starting point, because your inner children are probably terrified of being in the astral or the ethers or even just your own imagination, because you're starting off in the dark. You're starting off in the void. Okay, that's gonna be scary for anybody, even on the 3D plane. Okay, just being in a really dark, spooky space. What we can do, where is fun for you? Start off at the beach or in the mountains. Start off at an amusement park, at a lake, like wherever you want to begin, and have your inner children come forward when you're in meditation, or even if you're not at that level yet, just you and your higher self in there. Like, okay, I feel grounded, I feel centered, I have 2 feet on an actual reality instead of just being out in outer space, if you will, without feeling like I'm tethered to anything. If we have a location that we're starting out first, I can always come back to it. That means I'm not going to get lost, because that's a big fear of persons doing astral projection is, well, I'm going to go out there and then I'm not going to be able to come back. Well, if you have an imprint of a location in your mind before you start, then you can always get back there. It's a tether. What I would recommend is going on Google or Pinterest and finding a location that you want to start out in. It can be a mystical and fantasy land too. It doesn't necessarily have to be an earth-based location, but that's usually safer for your inner children first. Find pictures before you go in meditation, because then it's easier to pull up in your mind. If you're trying to curate something based off of nothing and your imagination skills aren't there yet, it's going to be a lot more difficult, and maybe you start second guessing yourself or start shaming yourself of like, oh, it's not vivid enough. Okay, well, set yourself up for success and look at some pictures beforehand. And then when you're in there, we already have it ready to go. And then you can ask your higher self to come forward and say things over yourself like, I'm safe, I have a tether, I'm grounded, I'm centered, I can always come back here. And then it's going to be easier to navigate further, either in your imagination or your astral body, because your inner children feel safe and secure. You're like, oh yeah, I'm not just starting off like randomly out in space. And then intentions, again, if you can come in with an intention and a location and then have those questions, it's going to be so much easier. That is how I started. The reason that I was suggesting the New Horizons channel at the beginning with the woman with the children meditations that you can do with your inner children is because she always does location-based meditations. Like, you're always starting out at some point, and that taught me how to do it on my own. Active meditations are also really beneficial. Like, yes, it's great to sit and teach yourself how to become the observer and put your thoughts at bay. Or you can do that through keeping your body moving. That is a huge issue with people who are neurodivergent, because we already have a hard time like sitting still. And I don't mean with your physical body necessarily. Like, that's also your mind. Okay? Sitting still with your mind. Just like when you're listening to music or a podcast or a TV show or something that is keeping you engaged, and that's when you can let go of your thoughts, we need to do something like that for our actual physical body. There's a lot of times where I will go out into nature, or I'll do a salt bath, or I'll be dancing. Just anything that is a physical activity, washing the dishes, doing yoga, playing with your dogs, whatever that is for you. If your body is engaged, it's easier to let go of your thoughts because you're being present. When we're not being present is when the thoughts are thoughting. When we are thinking about the past, when we're thinking about the future, what we're having for dinner, got to pick the kids up, you know, all these different things, because your mind, that high level of brain connectivity, is you're just trying to make all these connections and think about things before they happen so that you can have the best outcome. And especially if you're a timeline reader, that can be like a whole thing in and of itself. But tapping is great. EFT tapping. If you can get yourself present in the moment, that's a form of meditation. It's just teaching you how to put your thoughts at bay by keeping your body busy. And y'all put some suggestions here too in the comments if there's any type of activities, like active meditations like that serve you. Some of the things that I like to do in meditation to kind of mix it up: listen to adventure music, like Dungeons and Dragons. There is a guy on YouTube, his name is Peter Crowley, and he has a whole channel on adventure music. That is a great way for me to tap into the magical fantasy versions of myself. Or if you want to start connecting with unicorns and fairies and dragons and elves and things of those natures, adventure music is kind of putting these, like, you know, when you're a bowling alley and you can put the side rails up, listening to adventure music is going to side rail you to be pointed towards those dimensions or those frequencies or those timeline connections that you have to magical creatures or fantasy-based cosmic beings. It is setting these filter lenses for you to find them. I also like listening to ASMR roleplay. If anybody's seen those where people like tap on the screen or, you know, they do different sound effects. There is a whole entire ASMR culture on YouTube where people are at a wand shop. They're making potions. You're going to go see the witch in the woods. There are going to wizarding school. Those are super fun. And those are great for your inner children to help you get into those higher states of imagination. And like we talked about in the beginning of this, are they perfect representors of past life connections or magical creatures or cosmic beings? No, but they're close enough. Then when you start experiencing that in meditation, you'll feel a lot more safe and secure because you've already imbued your energy field with those frequencies. And they're fun and they're very relaxing and it gives you new ideas. I love watching fantasy animes because it really helps with my soul retrievals in people's Akashic records. It expands my consciousness outside of what we have in this 3D reality, because there's so many different things that are vastly beyond what the collective consciousness has here. And if you circulate fantasy and magical things around you, whether that's cinema, books, TV shows, movies. It is going to help you step outside of this 3D reality and just say, there is so much opportunity and propensity for me to experience things that are not just here on Earth. Highly recommend. Okay, so ASMR, roleplay is great for that, anime, you know, whatever type of movies and TV shows you like to watch. The last things I have here is figuring out next level you. When people are in meditation, they are struggling because you cannot create a new reality with the consciousness that created the one that you're in right now. Because that's just how you get in a loop. That's how you're stuck. You need to have an outside source to help you. Whether that is a friend, a therapist, an energy healer, it's got to be a perspective outside of you. Obviously. Right? That's why we're grinding our gears, because we're like, I don't know what else to do to get me out of what I'm experiencing. And that's why we're here. What you can do is start talking to your higher self, because your higher self is outside of your current experiences. They are a future version of you. Where people get stuck is you are trying to connect to a higher self that is 10 or 15 years away from where you're at right now. That is not setting yourself up for success. You are going to end up speaking a lot of shame and guilt over yourself of like, dang, I can't get here. Okay, well, that's too far out. That's too big. And I'm not saying that we don't need to have, you know, lofty dreams, goals, and aspirations. That's amazing. But at the same time, we need to make it a little bit more tangible to our now experience. Just like we need to have micro goals and macro goals. They both feed into one another. So yeah, let's have a higher self that's like 10 or 15 years from now, but also let's have a higher self that's a year from now or 6 months from now. That is how I have consistently switched identities and leveled up, because I have those big things, but I'm like, who am I 6 months from now? What does she look like? What are her thoughts? What are her emotions? That makes it so much more tangible. Baby steps. Okay, I don't need an 87-step plan. I just need to know what we're doing today. And in curating, kind of like a Build-A-Bear of who do I want to be in 6 months or a year, you're giving birth to that consciousness. You're giving birth to that higher self. When you're very clear on who that is, what you can do is when I'm feeling very stressed and anxious in life, and I just am stuck, like I cannot figure out how to make forward movement because it's the fear that has got a chokehold on me. And when you are experiencing fear and limiting beliefs and catastrophizing, again, it cuts you off from your intuition and trusting yourself and your channeling abilities. It locks you down. So what I do is I will go into meditation and I will call my higher self 6 months or a year from now and be like, I need help. I cannot see beyond my own limitations right now. And this is what I do. I will go in meditation and I will start talking to myself in the present. I'll be like, hey girl, what's going on? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Why? What have we done to get ourselves into this place? Now we are becoming the observer outside of ourselves, and I'm actually embodying that higher self 6 months or a year from now and talking back to me in the present. And I'm able to give her great advice. I'm like, oh, all you need to do is X, Y, Z in order to get closer to where I'm at. That is another form of meditation. In order to do that, however, you have to kind of get clear on who am I 6 months or a year from now. Every time you go in to do one of those meditations, you become a little bit more like them. You take on a little bit more of their personality and their emotions and their feelings and their thoughts, and then eventually you become them. That is how I became the version of myself that I am today. So my original name was Brittany. I had long blonde hair. I dressed very conservatively, completely different from who I am today. Okay. And I said, who do I want to be a year from now? And I said, her name is Sage. She has colorful hair. She wears glitter, lots of colorful makeup. She's very confident. She's a great leader. You know, all of the personality traits and attributes and gifts that I was wanting that was tangible. This is like when you're saying, I want to make $1 million a year, but we're not making $50,000 a year. Well, that's too big of a jump for your consciousness. What can I do in 6 months to a year is going to set you up for a lot more success, because you're going to be able to celebrate all of those micro steps along the way. Okay. After I started speaking to Sage and I figured out who she was and I started talking back to myself in the present, oh my God, it was so much easier. She'd be like, girl, just do this. Here you go. This is exactly what you need to do today. Just on a day-to-day basis. And I was creating like quantum leaps in my life because I wasn't trying to just talk to one that was 10 or 15 years out, because doing that made me feel very less than. It was very much cutting at my self-worth because I wasn't able to make as big of a steps that I needed to, because there was just so many consciousness jumps away from where I was at. Okay, let's scale it back and figure out who Sage is and just work on that every single day. And that's something I still do now. There's a whole nother version of me that I'm working on a year from now. And when I'm feeling very stressed out and anxious, I'm like, hey, I need your help. And then I become her and talk back to myself in the present. Highly recommend. Try it today. It's a lot easier than you think. And it sounds very like heady and theoretical, but when I teach my clients this and then they go into meditation, they're like, oh shit. They're like, I got the instructions that I was looking for, and it was very easy. Last thing here, letting things come to you. When you are going in meditation, sometimes we have this like very internal drive of like overachieving or perfectionism and thinking that we're going to get things right or wrong. That's not how energy healing works. That's not how channeling works. There are no right and wrongs. It's perceptions. It is exploratory. It is imaginative. So you need to relax a little bit and just realize it's about self-discovery. It's not black and white. It's not this and that, or not this or that. It's this and that. That striving energy and that pushing energy of like, I have to find the answer. That's what's blocking you up. When I am reading for other persons, of course I'm going in with intentions of like, this person wants to learn about their soul mission. This person wants to learn about their spiritual gift, you know, yada, yada, yada. If I am being so intense with those intentions and being like, I have to know for this person, it pushes it away from you because that's resistance. When I take a second and take a breath and recenter and say, I am an open receiver. I am ready for whatever wants to show up. Whatever wants to be my teacher, mentor, and guide, I'm here for it. I am putting out an open invitation to mine or somebody else's higher self, inner children, different incarnations, and I'm gonna sit here and wait for the response. That is when things come through. You've got to relax. Channeling equals being relaxed and being open and being receptive instead of pushing and striving and feeling like you're doing something wrong. Right? We need to say, nope, I'm great at what I do. I'm a great channeler. I'm great at perceiving. I'm great at asking questions. I love being in my imagination. I'm a great interpreter. I decipher things wonderfully. Like, you've got to be speaking life into your channeling and meditating abilities. And when you do that, you relax enough to then receive. And I know earlier we were talking about utilizing your logical and analytical brain to dig into the roots of self or whatever you're trying to find. That still works too. It's contextual. Sometimes I do need to be a lot more forward momentum of asking and guiding and pushing the narrative of the experience that's happening. And then other times I'm creating resistance, and that's the block. And I need to relax. And I need to allow what needs to come through. Because if you're working with other people, you have your own filter lenses and distortions and biases and trauma that creates filter lenses that can influence their field or can influence the answers that you're getting. So when you start to feel that resistance, it's because those filter lenses are coming down of you feeling shameful, guilty, or like you're doing something wrong, or you're not good at channeling or whatever. That's why we need to take a breath and we need to say, I know what I'm doing. I am going to relax and allow what needs to come to me. And we just sit in silence and wait. And then usually immediately afterwards, it comes through. But you got to bypass those filter lenses and that fear and that anxiety, because that's cutting off your abilities. Okay. So, thank you all for the follows. I appreciate you very much. Does anybody have any questions about meditation? Or I would love to hear what everybody's biggest takeaway was from this chat. I'm also going to put this on my YouTube channel. If you were not here for its entirety, we went over a lot of different topics. You can follow me at Soul Harmony Magic. Just like here, you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. I do have a psychic development workshop that is coming up on March the 15th. There will be a replay if you're unable to attend live. You can use the promo code MAGIC today to get $10 off of the psychic development workshop or my soul retrieval and past life masterclass. For the psychic development workshop, we're going to be talking about how to interpret symbolism to help you with your storytelling abilities, and also doing astral and etheric work on yourself or for other persons, because our human psyche works really well with narrative, storytelling, symbols, but oftentimes people are still having those fears of, well, what if I get it wrong? What if I'm not interpreting it correctly? Well, this is going to be really fun for your inner children and teach them to take the pressure off of themselves, and that it's not black and white, and that it's up to your own interpretations individually. And then there's also collective interpretations and how to navigate both of those. So you can learn more about yourself or, again, help your clients. So thank y'all so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. I hope everybody has a